Hello students, welcome to English e-learning class 10. Today we study our third poem from your book First Flight. The name of the poem is A Tiger in the Zoo. This poem is written by Leslie Norris. Leslie Norris was a prize-winning Welsh poet and short story writer, as he had won many awards. Today, he is considered one of the most important Welsh writers of the post-war period. His awards are the Catherine Mansfield Memorial Award, the AML Award, the Welsh Arts Council Senior Fiction Award, and many more awards. This poem, A Tiger in the Zoo, contrasts a tiger in the zoo with a tiger in its natural habitat. The poem moves from the zoo to the jungle and back again to the zoo. Read the poem silently once and say which stanzas speak about the tiger in the zoo and which ones speak about the tiger in the jungle. The poem is written by Leslie Norris. Here he explains the agony and helplessness of a caged tiger that lives in a zoo. So let's begin our poem. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage on pads of velvet quiet in his quiet rage. Here the poet says that the tiger that is confined in a zoo has limited place to move. It moves around in the cage under his bright colored skin. He further says that the tiger can take only a few steps because the cage is very small and it is not easy to move in it. One cannot hear his footsteps because he has very soft feet like velvet. Poet compares his paws of foot with a velvet, because of which there is no sound of the tiger's footsteps. That even the tiger tries to control his anger by quietly walking in the limited area of his cage, and he is very angry because he is not free, because tiger is a animal which lives in a forest. It cannot be kept in a zoo. When it is kept in the zoo, he is angry. He wants freedom. Now we will see the poetic devices in the first stanza. First, we'll see the rhyme scheme. First line, last letter, it is stripes. Next line, it is cage. Third line, it is quiet. Fourth line, it is rage. We can write stripes as A. Cage we can write B. Quiet again we can write C. And rage is same as cage. We can write it as B. So the rhyme scheme of this stanza becomes A, B, C, B. Next, come to personification. In the personification, here the word he, his and his. He and his. This is poet is trying to explain about this tiger, and instead of writing it, poet has used he as a person. We can say it is personification. Now we can see next poetic device, that is consonants. In the first line, he stalks, S, use of S, stalks, his steps. S effect is prominent in the first line, stalks, his and steps. That is known as consonants. Next is assonance. Assonance is effect of any vowel. You can see effect of I in his vivid. This is known as assonance. Next poetic device is oxymoron. Oxymoron, it is use of an adjective that is opposite in meaning. And you can see in the quiet rage. Quiet rage is oxymoron. And the next poetic device used in this stanza is enjambment. Enjambment is actually a sentence which continues to next line without any punctuation. You can see in the first line, he stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage. Here from this part it goes and it is known as enjambment. Next poetic device, you can say metaphor. Here in the line, tiger's paws are compared with velvet, pads are compared with velvet. That is metaphor. And we next is consonance. Consonance, you can just check in the lines. Stalks in his vivid strips. Sound of S. S consonant here in the his, sound of S. Again in the strips, it is consonant. Use of the consonant S is particularly you can listen while reading it. Effect of the S is more. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass, near the water hole where plump deer pass. In this stanza, the poet says that if this tiger is free, he would have hide himself behind the long grass near the water bodies so that he could easily catch a deer in order to have it as its food. The poet want to say that the tiger lives in jungle where he is very free to catch its prey and it can eat any deer. But in the cage, the tiger is packed, you can say, and it cannot go out and the tiger is not getting freedom. Now we will see the poetic devices in the second stanza. First, we'll see the rhyme scheme. You can see last word in the first row is shadow. You can write it A. Next is grass. You can write B. Hole. You can write C. And grass and pass, you can write it is same as B. So the rhyme scheme becomes A, B, C, B. Come to next poetic device, alliteration. Alliteration is, you can see plump, pass. Effect of P sound in this line, it is alliteration. And next poetic device, you can imagine, you can visualize that by reading this line, he should be lurking in shadow. You can imagine that the tiger is hiding himself behind the grass and you can imagine that scene, and this is known as imagery, lurking in the shadow. Here the line shows imagery, means you can visualize this thing, that image comes to your mind. So this is about the poetic devices in the second stanza. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his wide fangs, his claws terrorizing the village. In the third stanza, the word snarling means warning sound that is made by the animals, and bearing is uncovered. Bearing his white fangs means teeth of the tiger is visible. Now we'll see the poetic devices in the third stanza. Again we'll see rhyme scheme. Last word is around. Next line it is edge. Third line it is clause. And fourth line it is village. You can write first is A, B, C, B, edge and village. Rhyme scheme becomes A, B, C, B. Next is enjambment. Enjambment, you can see the line, first line, he should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge. In these two lines, there is no comma. After the first line, there is no comma, no punctuation. You can say it is enjambment. Next is assonance. You can see the effect of O sound should around houses. Should around and houses. Effect of the O sound is there, that is known as assonance. Next poetic device is consonance. We can see the effect in this line, bearing his teeth, sound of S. Fangs, his claws, effect of S is prominent, that is consonance. Next poetic device is onomatopoeia, that is the effect of the sound. After reading that word, we can feel that, or we can listen that sound, that is onomatopoeia, and that word is snarling. Snarling gives the effect of sound, it is onomatopoeia. So this is about the poetic devices in the third stanza. But he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. In this stanza, the poet comes to the reality of the tiger. Actually, the tiger is inside the cage. He says that tiger is confined in a strong cell which is made up of concrete. It is a very strong building material. You can see in the zoo there is a big cemented boundary. His strength behind bars, and this tiger is a powerful animal. It has so much of strength, and it is behind the bars inside the cage, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. What he is doing, the tiger is just stalking in the cage. It never tries to terrorize. It is moving. When the visitors, they used to come and see the tiger is inside the cage, moving here and there. And in the cage, he never tries to terrorize the visitor, as he cannot attack them. But when it is open, it can attack. So in this stanza, we get the idea that the tiger is inside its concrete cell, or you can say the tiger is inside the zoo. Now we will see the poetic devices of this stanza. You can see again rhyme scheme is same: cell, bars, cage and visitors. It is again A, B, C, B. Next poetic device is his. His is used talking about the tiger. It is personification. Next poetic device is assonance. In the assonance, there is effect of any vowel sound. You can see the effect of E, his, locked, concrete, cell. This is assonance. Next is consonance, effect of any consonant sound. Now again see in the line, his, effect of S, his strength behind the bars, effect of S. This is known as consonance. Next is poetic device is alliteration. You can see behind bars. It is behind bars, concrete cell. This is alliteration. So this is about the poetic devices of this stanza. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eye at the brilliant stars. In this stanza, the poet says that in the night, the tiger hears the sound of the patrolling cars. These patrolling cars, these are the vehicles, the police, who are used to guard at night. At night, the tiger hears the sound of these cars. He again stares at the shining stars with his shining eyes. Poet wants to say that tiger is very sad as he is confined in the cage. He cannot come out and he only stares at night and tries to divert his thoughts towards them. He cannot, means he is very upset, you can say sad, but he cannot do anything. Now we will see the poetic devices in this stanza. First of all, we will see rhyme scheme in this stanza. Night, cars, eye, stars. It is A, B, C, B. It is rhyme scheme becomes A, B, C, B. Next poetic device is assonance, effect of eye. His brilliant. In this, with his brilliant, eye effect is prominent. It is known as assonance. Next poetic device is alliteration. Alliteration is repetition of one word, one letter, you can say, not word. He hears. He hears, it is alliteration. And the last poetic device in this stanza is enjambment, where their line continues without any punctuation. You can see and stares with his brilliant eye and at the brilliant stars. It is known as here enjambment. So this is about the poetic devices of this last stanza of this poem, A Tiger in the Zoo. So this is all about this poem, The Tiger in the Zoo. I think you all must have got the poem. Thank you.